Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through Odyssey Book 4, and I got up to line 471. And the context here, of course, is that Menelaus has been speaking with the old man at the sea, whom he has tricked into revealing what's exactly happening and why he's not able to leave Egypt and to go back to his homeland. And so at this point he says, "Thus I spoke, hos epharmain, hodi me aortica amebominos prosiepen." And he, immediately replying, he addressed me. Al mal opheles die, so dia dii, taloisi te theoisi. Rexas hera cal anabinemen. Now we have this opheles here from ophello. You also get the form ophalo. There are several of these in Homer. The verbs they're two different verbs, I should say, that look like this, which you can see in the dictionaries. This one is used with an infinitive. This here is an imperfect here. And it's used in the sense of you ought to have. And the mala is emphasizing it. But very much you ought to, and we've got a present infinitive here, anabinemen, to have got on board ship. But the key point is that rexas, after you had sacrificed. This is from resdo, a verb seen before, often used in the sense of religious sacrifice. So, resdo means to do or make, but in the sense of make or do a sacrifice. So, would that very much you had got on board after you had made sacrifices, beautiful sacrifices, to Zeus, so both to Zeus and to the other gods. Ophra plus the optative here, so that. It's optative probably because it didn't happen here yet, and so that you might have gone very quickly into your fatherland, epi oinopaponton, lovely sound patterns here, upon the wine-faced sea, the wine-dark sea. So he says, if only you'd have made these proper sacrifices, then you would have been able to get on board and go back to your fatherland. But of course you didn't. So would that then you had got on board after you had made beautiful sacrifices both to Zeus and to the other gods, so that as quickly as possible you would have gone into your fatherland, pleon participle, sailing upon the wine-dark sea, epi oinopaponton. Uga toi prin moira philus ideain kahikestai, oikon eoctimenon, etc. Now we get prin, and in Homeric Greek the idiom is that you don't translate the first prin. So for it is got to supply the verb to be. It is not fate for you. It is not your fate. Ideain, from horao, to see your friends and to come to your eoctimenon, your well-founded or well-built house, and into your ancestral land. And now we get the prin with hot. This is hot te, the epsilon's been elided. In later Greek you would get hotan as one word. Here we're just getting hote plus an. So it's until the time when, something like that here, until whenever Elthes you might go, autis, once again, and that's quite emphatic by position as well as meaning here. So until you might go once again to the water of Egypt. And the editors put a comma in here separating off this little phrase here. The diipeteos potamoio. This is a genitive from a third declension noun. It's connected with dios in the sense of Zeus, in the sense of rain, and the pet is from the root pipto, to fall. So rain which is, well, so it's rain which is fallen, and so it's often translated as heaven fed or rain fed river. So the Nile, of course, is what's being referred to here, and it was thought of as being formed by rainfall, which of course it is, but further up, back in down in Africa. So before the time when you might go again to the water of Egypt, that is the Nile, that rain-fed river, potamoio. Rexas, and now we get two subjunctives, verbs here, right next to each other, which is quite clever. Elthes, rexes, linked by the lovely te here. And you might sacrifice, you might make holy hecatombs. You might make holy hecatombs to the immortal gods. Toi for hoi, so who hold broad heaven. Kai totu doi dosus in hodon theoi. And at that time the gods will grant hodon, a journey or a path for you. Hain, the one which, now hodos of course is feminine, so we get a feminine relative pronoun here, the one which you desire. From menoinao is the verb. So the one which you desire. Hosephat, thus he spoke. Ate emoi ge kataklaste philon etor. The subject here is my dear heart, philon etor. Could be just my heart. Philon can have that sense of my, but I'll just translate it as my dear heart. But my dear is a very strong but my dear heart indeed. Kataklaste, from kataklasdo, we get our word cataclysm from this, was shattered, so was devastated, and dative of the possessor. So my heart for me indeed was devastated. Can mean to smash to pieces. Hunica, because anogen, from anoga, it's one of those verbs which is perfect in form, present in meaning, very common in Greek, not only Homer, but classical Greek as well. Because he bid me, autis, once again, Ianai, to go, I guptonde, to Egypt, notice the de ending, to go back to Egypt on the misty sea. This is common epithet of ponton. It's got that aero, the air, mist, and the idea of misty appearance. So we just say misty, upon the misty sea. A hodon, a path, this is feminine, so feminine adjectives, a path or a journey, which is dolikan, which is long, and argelein, harsh or difficult. So a long and difficult journey. It's the last thing Agamemnon wants to hear at this point. Alakai hos min epesin epebomenos prosiapin, and replying, Alakai, and also thus replying, he spoke to me with, I addressed him with words, I should say. And also thus, in reply, I addressed him, epesin, with words, dative plural from epos. Tauta menhuto de telio, geron, hos sukelues. Indeed, in this way, I will fulfill tauta these things, as you bid. The huto goes really with the hos here, I think. So, in this way, just as you bid, just as you command. al agemoi todiepe kai atracheos katalexon. But come, common use of age here, but come, speak this to me, and katalexon, relate it, get a word catalogue from this, relate it accurately. Now we get some questions here. We get an A, and we're going to get two more A and A down further. So either, so he's asking a question. So did all the Achaeans come along with their ships apamones? This is without pain, without misery, so we would say perhaps safely almost. It's alpha privative plus paim. There's a word paima, meaning a pain. So did they come without grief with their ships? Those whom Nestor and I, coming Troy a then, notice the then ending, so as we were coming from Troy, Lipomen, aorist from Lapo, we left behind. So whom we left behind, Nestor and I, when we were coming from Troy. So did they all do that, or did someone perish? So did, we would say, did any of them, but it's tis. Did someone perish on his ship? Personal adjective here, again it's feminine, having to agree with naos, which is genitive, which is feminine. So on his ship with arduke, it's a difficult word. The meaning is disputed. Some take it as meaning not cared for, perhaps cruel. Others take it to mean not sweet, hence bitter. Bitter destruction, so it's slightly, you can see the commentaries on this one. So, or did someone perish on his ship by, well, either cruel destruction or bitter destruction? Another alternative, or in the hands of his friends, when Polymon tolopeusen. Now tolopeuo is a funny verb. It means to wind off wool from the loom, and it then is used metaphorically in the sense that once you've wound off all the wool from the loom, that means you've finished the task. And these weaving was generally a pretty long, tedious task, and so this is the verb to finish some long and tedious exercise. So it comes to mean to bring to completion or wound up, to try and keep the same metaphor. The verb is, I think, from memory, used at the beginning, towards the beginning of book 24 of the Iliad. Again, referring to the war winding up, being finished off. So, or did he die in the hands of friends when he brought to completion Polymon the war? Hos epharmain, and thus I spoke, but he, replying to me immediately, he said, or perhaps he replying immediately said to me, or addressed me. Atreides, son of Atreus, timen tauta dierei, why do you inquire of me in respect of these things? So why do you ask me these things? Ude tisecre idmenai. Now, as I mentioned before, perhaps cray is, in Homer, is still a noun. You've got to supply esti. In later Greek, you sort of think of it as a impersonal verb with day and cray, but day is an impersonal verb, but cray actually was originally a noun, meaning need. So, nor is there need for you in any way idmenai, to know. So you don't. Neither do you need to know, nor do you need to understand my mind. So the idmenai is infinitive. The id root from oida. Notice the se is enclitic, puts its accent back on the unaccented te. which puts its enclitic, puts its accent there. So again we get cascading accents. This is the indefinite tit, in any way. So there's no need for you to know in any way. So neither is there need for you to know, well, perhaps anything you could say here. So there's no need for you to know anything, nor to know or to understand my mind. This is this da root again of knowing, and this is an infinitive. Despite having said that, he then goes on to tell him, but so neither set fami do I say that you assess thy as a future infinitive from the verb to be, deign for a long time, and aklauston alpha privative, the root here clau from clio to weep, aorist eklausa. So nor do I say that you will be without tears for a long time, other words, or epe ke. So it's whenever, epe means since, but I think here it has the sense of whenever you might perceive all these things well. So whenever you might get a good perception of all of these things. Puthei is second person subjunctive, aorist subjunctive from pun thanamai. The root is puth. So he says, I don't think you're going to be without tears for a long time whenever you perceive or understand all of these things well. So although he says there's no need for you to know, he goes on to tell him anyway. So poloi men gar ton gedamen. So we get a poloi men and a poloi de, just to enjoy here the nice balance. So for many of them, now the damen here is not from the da root we saw before, this is from damazdo. There is a verb damao as well. It's the dam is the root here. And this is a third person plural, has to be because of poloi, third person plural passive. So for many of them indeed have been tamed, have been overcome, but many liponto, aorist without augment, were left behind. So many of them were overcome, that is, they were destroyed, they were killed, and many of them were left behind. So, but the moreover, the only two leaders of the bronze Kitone Dacians, they perished on their return journey. So it's, sorry, I think the mono is probably only. So only two of the leaders of the bronze Kitone Dacians perished on the return journey. So two of them alone. And now we get this funny little clause here, Makeda te kai su paresta. Literally, for you were present, you also were present in the battle. Very funny use of te and kai here. So in the battle also you were present. So I think the sense of it here is that you were there and you know who died in Troy. The reference up here, of course, is almost certainly to one of these two leaders. It was Agamemnon, of course, a reference to Agamemnon, which Menelaus is not aware of at this stage. So, but you yourself were present in the battle, so you know who died there. Heis deti pud soos katerukatai ere ponto. Now, heis for one, but furthermore, one of them, pu perchance, alive, is being detained on the broad sea. And this, of course, is a reference to Odysseus. So there is one further one who is still alive, perchance. He is being detained, passive from kat eruko, on the broad sea. Aias men, but Ajax, now the verb here is dame. Again, this is from that damasto, that dam root, and this is an aorist passive, but it's third person singular this time. So Ajax was tamed along with his ships with their long oars, the long-oared ships, from Dolikos, long, and Eretmos, or Eretmon, I think it is a neuter noun meaning an oar. So Ajax was tamed along with his long-oared ships. Poseidon, this is nominative here, Epelase, brought him near, first of all, adverbial, brought him near, min for auton, to the large Gurian rocks. Now these Gurian rocks, some scholars think it may be a reference to Mykonos. So on his way back he goes past Mykonos, and these are the Gurian rocks, but perhaps. And ex saose, and he was saved, he was rescued from the sea. So he comes to grief on these rocks, but nonetheless he was rescued from the sea. Kai nun ke efuge kera. Now the ken here is very important, and it's always followed in this kind of construction with ame. And then he would have escaped out from under his kera, his fate. He would have escaped his fate. Kai ekomenos per Athene, Kai with the pair. In later Greek you just get Kai pair, here it's separated. So although he was hated by Athena, he would have escaped from his fate, although he was hated by Athena. Ame, except that a hyperphialon epos is neuter, so a very arrogant word, he cast forth a very arrogant word. So he spoke very recklessly and presumptuously. He cast forth a very presumptuous or arrogant word. Kai meg aaste. And this is a funny verb. You'll see it in the dictionary under asdo. Originally awasdo, with a digamma between the two alphas. And the digamma's gone, of course. So awasdo, original meaning was to make the mind blind, to blind the mind. And it hence comes to mean to be reckless. It's connected with arte, that word, that very strong word in Greek that continues on into Attic Greek and Greek tragedy, the idea of reckless destruction, recklessness, doing things without thinking about the consequences. And the mega is adverbial. So he would have escaped his fate, although he was hated by Athena, except that he cast forth a very arrogant word, and he was greatly reckless. And now the r for ara, accordingly he said that fugein, he had escaped, you've got to supply an out on here, that he had escaped the great lightma, literally the great sheet of the sea, so perhaps the great expanse of the sea, a ekati theon, without the help of the gods, so almost despite the gods, without the goodwill of the gods. It's connected with a ekon, unwilling, so without the goodwill of the gods. Tonde and Poseidon heard him, and genitive participle here agreeing with the two, him speaking big things, so boasting. So Poseidon heard him boasting, and forthwith then, thereafter, Helone from Hyreo, having taken, the root of Hyreo is, the stem is hell, from the aorist is halon, stem is hell. So having taken in his strong hands, in his powerful hands, in his strong hands, his triinon, his trident, Ailase from Elauno, well, it's often used of to smash. So he he struck the Gorian rock, apode eskisen autain, and he broke off from it. Well, understand, he broke part of it off, I think is what it is here. From aposkizdo, we get our word schism, scissors, etc. So he cut something off from it. Kai tomin autothi mene, and then todet truphos. Truphos is a broken fragment or broken piece. So it, that is the Gorian rock, remained autothi there, but the broken piece, empese, it fell from empipto into the sea. And Ajax at first, adverbial here, top proton, sitting upon it, meg aaste. So you'd think he might have learnt his lesson, but no, he continues. He was made reckless. He became greatly reckless. He was made greatly reckless. These are passives, of course. These are astes here. So Ajax at first, sitting upon it, became greatly reckless. But now I think Ephore is referring back to this truphos, this broken piece of the rock, but it was carrying him, because he's sitting on it, kataponton aperonta cum nionta. Cum nionta is a participle meaning wavy, hence surging or swelling. So it was carrying him down into, I think, the swelling boundless sea. Hos homen enth apolalen, and thus he perished there. Epe pien halmuron hudor, since pien, unaugmented aorist from pino, since he drank salty water. In other words, he drowned. So there he perished, thus he perished there, since he drank the salty water. And that is the end of this section, and we'll continue this in the next recording.